Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Hxro Labs. Today we're going to call it, we're in the pit. Welcome to the pit. Doesn't feel right without Toast Malone, but he couldn't make it today. Dad duties called, so it's myself, RT, Random Task 555 on Twitter. Our special guest today, Brian Beamish at CR Investor on Twitter, and we've got Jedi Blockmates, who just cracked 10K on Twitter.
Congratulations.
A real 10K. I'm at 11K, but I think 99% of those people are dead. I'm convinced that they didn't make it through the cycle, which is unfortunate. And if you are one of my followers and you're not dead, give us a shout out in the chat. Uncomfortably quiet on Twitter for me lately, which is fine.
I've been the loudest I've ever been. Brian, it's good to have you on the show.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. It was great chatting with you guys. What was that, back in the spring? Is that what it was?
I think it was like early summer, maybe June, I want to say.
Yeah.
But
because I remember I wanted to review with you what happened there at the end of June, beginning of July. And it turns out our buddy over there at BlackRock got the ball going a little bit premature there. Right while I was on vacation, too. Sure.
I know. I remember you said that you came back in. You're like, well, yeah. And we talked at length about Rollbit, RLB. That was kind of when our Rollbit was just taking off around 12 cents or had taken off. So we'll take a look at that chart today just as a follow-up. I actually deleted a lot of the lines I had on it the other day because there were so many, but it is like looking very M-toppy right now. It's not there yet, but we can talk about that. The main thing I want to talk about today, because the timing is impeccable. I talk about TRI pretty much every show. I mention it because there it is.
There's my
PMA. PMA for the win. For those of you who don't know, it actually took me a month being in TRI to figure out what PMA was. It's positive mental attitude. But TRI term, I want to say term 2, but whatever. The September term is coming up. Deadline is in 2 days. So I thought it was a nice actionable guest time for you to come back in, because really the point of this channel is not, to grow to 100 million and make $5 million a month, like in rev. Like, it's just never been our thing. We want to get out content that helps people, puts people on the right path, protects people from themselves and nefarious actors. And my journey my journey to success anyways, really started at TRI, which was 2 years or a year actually into my crypto journey. So if I can do anything to encourage people to work their way towards your program, I'm always trying to do that, because for me, it was the difference between like gambling and trading. And now I don't have to work, at a normal job.
I think also just to add to that is that, a lot of guys do YouTube streams, and there's kind of like backhanders and, incentives. And the only incentive that there is here is exactly what RT is saying, is that it's motivated around community. It's around uplifting you guys. There's no benefit here besides the discount that Brian is giving you guys for this course. He did promise me tequila, though. Doesn't know he promised me that, but that's probably the only payment that Brian's going to have to subject himself to. But doing this because there's a lot to learn here, and there's a lot of positive stuff for you guys. And I think positive mental attitude is probably one of the most valuable lessons you guys will learn in trading. And if you want to be a good trader, this is how you go about doing it.
Yeah, if anything, what I didn't hear, which I think is probably what separates us from most of the people in this space, is this education program that we run. Is that I really want you to leave the program with a plan. So instead of just, firing from the hip, hey, looks like a good idea. That looks like hey, I heard this guy's touting this idea. To actually have a methodical step-by-step process that you go through to identify why you're going to do something. And then, what kind of risks you're going to take. And then sadly, I actually like to build into people's expectations that they will be wrong. A good portion of the time. I mean, it just happens. So how are you going to act? How are you going to behave when the market does prove you wrong? There are a bunch of ways to set yourself up that if you are proved wrong, it's not the end of the world. And actually, I did notice Actually, somebody sent me yesterday. Hxro is now doing, is it same day settlement futures contracts now? I'd be really curious to learn more about that.
Yeah.
But, you know,
0 day.
yeah. So if you're going to be considering participating in those kind of products, then absolutely you got to have a plan. You just can't come just willy nilly to the market. And actually, you know, one thing that reminds me of you, Colin, is I remember, you know, I think everybody has to go through these crypto 4-year cycles to really get a full appreciation of how euphoric the peaks are and how absolutely insanely depressing the troughs are.
I'm not depressed.
Yeah. So, and the thing is if you don't know this already, if you haven't been through this, then man, it is a hard lesson to learn. And I remember specifically calling you even saying, well, you know, I made it through to the next part of the bottom of the cycle, but I'm just hanging on barely. And then the next cycle kicked in and woohoo, there goes Colin.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I think we're pretty close to that kind of pivot point here in the market. We're getting close. Not there yet, but we're getting close.
Yeah, we're in the final. It feels like, and based on cyclical talk and your studies, like it feels like we're in that final stages, which is not a short stage. I mean, it could be 6 months, could be 8 months, but it's this final like peak depression, peak apathy, low volume, you know, high volatility, kind of low volume moves, news gets taken back, bad news, you know. So it's exciting to think about. I actually went through 2 bear markets from 2017 to 2020 because in the middle of it, like mid 2018, or maybe it was 2019, but I had a pre-sale investment from the ICO craze that came out and did really well. But did I take any profit? No. So I was like halfway back to my all-time highs from that. And I was like, oh, sick. Well, this is going to be the next Binance. So I'll just hold on to it. And it died. And so I went through 2 bear markets in my portfolio. And then I signed up for TRI in September 2018. And I didn't follow Grimm's advice, the level 1 instructor. He said, you know, probably just flat your account and chill and pay attention and focus and paper trade. I was like, you know what? I'm an altcoin guy, but I'll go to Bitcoin. I'll just move all my funds to Bitcoin. That's basically flat for me. And then we had the October 2018 crash of 50%, and I rode the whole goddamn thing. So like your point of like learning the hard way, I was the guy who had to learn the hard way. I couldn't just listen to someone who says this is stupid and risky. You know, you don't know how to trade. You should just do this. I was like, nah, I know what I'm doing.
Well,
so I did. I learned the hard way.
I can absolutely tell you, you're not alone.
Yeah.
You are more the norm than you are the exception. Trust me.
I think most people
what I love about
like
you,
that.
though, Colin, is you're so honest and you're so open, and you are willing to just completely lay it on the line and say, you know, I messed up. A lot of us men in this world, unfortunately, we just have too big of egos, and they can never actually take ownership of their bad behavior. So I think that's maybe one of the reasons why you're doing better this cycle, let's say, is that at the top you paid yourself a little bit, right? I think you went and bought a house, didn't you, or something?
Oh yeah, 2021 was great. I learned the lessons, and you know, and you still leave something on the table. I mean, I think a lot of people did really well in 2021. They leveled up their life, but they still leave that cream on top that leaves you kind of hungry, and you just walk away saying, okay, one more cycle, I'll do it this time, I swear. I'm still hungry. I'm not there yet. I'm not in FU money territory, but yeah, did really well. You know, moved and got a house and set up for the family. And now it's about like that longevity piece. And it's also, then I instantly started looking outwards. I was like, okay, who else in my family? You know, my parents are aging. Like you kind of I set these humble goals that were like, this is what I need to live my life. And then I got there and it was like, wait, you know, I'm here, I'm at the trough, there's food available. Why am I not, you know, pushing and working for somebody else in my family who maybe doesn't have that opportunity, or friends? Like you almost just like, I got this philanthropist mindset where I was like, I want more, not necessarily for myself, but I want that freedom to be able to like help people out. So that was that's kind of my next cycle goal, is to like be able to retire the parents, that kind of stuff, which is ambitious, but
it's a noble goal.
It's ambitious, and it's, you know, but like same old story.
Too much stress on your shoulders. You don't need to carry them along with you.
That's That's a factor. That's a factor. I'm trying not to put too much pressure on myself, but it's like it's a goal, right? They're not depending on that. But it's certainly why I would stay here working and grinding and doing this stuff beyond maybe meeting my own means. But look, we want to get into it today with you specifically to the market. I mean, I think it's another day in the market. Things are moving. Not everybody on our channel watches your channel. You stream almost every day. You're here, you're at the office, you're working. And one of the things I've loved about TRI is I get to hang out with you. You know, when I get into that trade room which is now in Discord, which is dope, you're there. You know, it's not like this paid group leader thing where these guys are like, oh yeah, you know, I made it. I got 10 Lambos and, you know, you can come and learn my content, but they're not actually in there. They're off sipping margaritas at the pool. Like you're at the office every day. So
Yeah.
I want to hear what you have to say about the market today. And I think that's going to be the best expression of what you guys teach.
Cool. Well, you know, at the end of the day, everybody has their opinions, and that's really all I can share with you is my opinion. Have learned a few things over the years that can try and help maybe keep you out of trouble a little bit. So hopefully we can convey some of those ideas, and those are the kind of things that we teach in the education program. So it is directly applicable from like literally day one. Jedi, you took the education program, didn't you? Like the level 1 program?
So I did the level 1
saying
program. Yeah, so I did the level 1 program. Obviously, recommendation in the pit from RT. I mean, RT always kind of like talks about, you know, the fundamentals around it. And I'm not a TA like disciple. It's not something that I do. I decided that it wasn't something that I necessarily wanted to do like in a hardcore way. But the things that I learned from TRI were twofold. Discipline around like FOMO and discipline in general, and then the plan. Like those are essentially the 2.5 things that I took away from TRI. And I can honestly say that I don't think at this point where I am right now in terms of like being like a business owner and kind of like being a partner in Blockmates, like that's my priority. Like I don't spend time trading, but what it has given me is that discipline when I need it. Like FOMOing into green candles is probably the single biggest mistake that anybody makes. It's like, I promise you, we all do it. We all get it. And the one thing that TRI taught me is, dude, stop the fuck with what you're doing and don't do that shit.
Don't
just like slap your own hand and wait. Cause like, yeah, we talked about it on the stream on Tuesday, even in the solo stream, like shit comes to reload zones. And if it's not there, find something that is. There's always some asset just parked in its reload zone, you know, rising volume, breaking out W's, strong fundamental story. Like wait for that because that will come. Why put money somewhere else? Like wait for optimal conditions, right? So yeah, powerful stuff. I mean, I'm going to toot your horn all day, but one of the things you said, you know, like you said, everyone's got your opinion. You've just got your opinion, but your concepts work. And you've said that in the, you know, you're not one to make promises like, oh, come here, you'll make money. But you've said like, this shit works. I can't guarantee you're going to follow it. I can't guarantee you're going to stay disciplined. I can't guarantee you're not going to be a fucking idiot. But like, if you do these things the way that I've taught you to do them over time, small wins, small losses, break evens, that's 90% of your trading. And then you have 10% of big wins, like something like in that ballpark, right? And it works.
Well, what I would say,
boring.
Like since the market top, especially since crypto is so closely tied to the money cycle, you know, half of the value that I just give people now is just say, look, just be patient. You know, now's not the time to try and be a hero. Now's the time to just think about capital preservation. Think about, like you said, the base hits. If we can just knock out base hits, that's awesome. If you can establish risk-free positions, then great. I mean, there's no better way to play the market than from a risk-free trade perspective. But don't try and like reinvent the wheel here in a bear market and try and force the market to go 10x. And then, you know, ironically enough, the market will just on its own bottom, and then we start the whole damn game all over again. And half a year, like everybody listening to this, if you're really interested in making money at this in seriousness, Half of your job right now is just to make sure that you survive through the bear, and you don't go and blow yourself up.
Yeah.
Which I mean, that's not, it's, in a sales business, they always say, sell the sizzle, right? And my sizzle right now is just cool your jets. just
Yeah.
go slow. And if anything, the great part about now is this is the time when you work on your plan. This is the time when you go digging for those good fundamental ideas. This is the time when you poke, I mean, there is never going to be a better crypto icon in my eyes than that Danny guy.
Love
Fucking.
God love him.
I mean, I don't know whether I'm allowed to swear. I'm sorry.
No,
if
you can.
I broke the rules there. You're going to have to bleep me out.
This is
But that guy's
channel.
perfect. At the top of the market, he's untouchable. You can't hold a candle to him, right? And he's like on Twitter and he's got like live feeds that there's 100,000 people listening to him and stuff, right? So now is the time when we got to go find those guys. What are the projects that they're working on that nobody's talking about now, but in the next bull market, they're going to be thinking like he walks on water and fucking and the whole thing, right?
I remember you told me that actually last bear market, on the VC side of things, like in general, you're like, this is the time where you can actually go talk to a CEO, talk to a founder, because they're bored. They're not bored necessarily, but they're available, right? Once the fluff comes into the market and the heat, you can't get on a call with these guys. And they're not that open to you because everyone wants to talk to them because they're all grabbing at the money. And people respect people who are working hard, doing like the work during this part of the phase. So I've actually found that too. And I've used that in our fund, like just using this time, like I'm on 3 calls today, 2 tomorrow, just chatting with guys. And I know Jedi is probably 10x what I do in that sense. Like every time I mention a project, he's like, yeah, we wrote that up 3 months ago. Like, you're late. Hyperliquid the other day, like these guys are just in the weeds and they're really good at filtering through the bullshit. And so when they write something up, I can be pretty confident it's not at least,
right. And then when the top comes in, like you said, you can't, these guys won't even talk to you.
No, they're billionaires.
Yeah. And, the thing is Jedi's going to be sitting here all nice and quiet and just sitting on just mountains of money. And people are just going to be like, how did he do it? How did he do it? Well, the way that he did it was he put the time and effort in when nobody else was interested in this stuff. And he got to know these guys and he got invited into like with the crypto financing. What are they calling it these days? It started out as ICO. Then it went to IDO. What's the term nowadays they call it?
IEO.
IEO, really?
Different rounds of raising, whether it's seed round, whether it's a public round, is just different words for the same thing.
Actually, the meta this summer with these bots and stuff is just like 1 million supply, punt it into the market, no raise at all, and then just run a tax revenue on all the trading. So it's 4% buy tax, 4% sell tax. And that creates the initial liquidity funding and some of the revenue right out of the gates. That's kind of been the latest like small cap on-chain meta I found. But
if you could actually, I'd love to have you come on, Colin, one day if you want. And also too, Jedi, remember, I think you guys came on the TRI show, didn't you?
We were on last month, I think, or a month before that.
It was, anyway, love to have you guys come on. And, I would make the argument, like I said earlier, especially if you're watching this and you're relatively new to the crypto space, now is the time. Take the next 6 months. And, we had one lady who took the level 1 program recently, and she liked the expression, now's the time when you got to get your skirt together, right? Mm-hmm. Try and keep this nice and G-rated. So I thought that was beautiful. It's perfect, is that now is the time to get ready for the next bull. And, a nice, easy expression that we used to always use in the markets, which just totally perfectly typifies speculation and capitalism, is you got to be, and let's see if you guys can remember how this goes. You got to be buying when they're crying and selling when they're what?
Yelling.
Right. And that's the way you play this game to make money from trading. Is that you got to do the exact opposite. So
and as a high level strategy, that's great. And then you zoom in with some of these better concepts like because this whole thing is technically crying, right? Anything sub 30K is like a crying market for Bitcoin. I think, except for when we maybe got back up to it. But like the point is,
we had a pretty normal seasonal rally window there, and frankly speaking, about midsummer here, you could feel that the public was getting a little too bullish and a little too moony. You could feel the conversation. YouTube's got these shorts things now. I guess that's in direct competition with TikTok and stuff like that, right? And like you sit and scroll through these YouTube shorts, and it's like one crypto moon short after another. And some of the targets that these people were coming up with. There's one gentleman who I love to poke fun at, although he's now a TRI member, and he told me that he is, so I'm not allowed to poke fun at him anymore. But he came up with just the most outlandish bullish price target for like the total crypto universe here through this year, 2023. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. I can't believe it. But that's the way the public acts. That's their job, which is kind of sad, is they come in and buy the tops, right?
It's fascinating how bullish people were at such a low price point. Like, like the psychology of the market, it didn't take much to kind of hit overdrive. Whereas, sitting through like 2021, it took a lot. I mean, we were pretty much feeling it, obviously, anytime above 20K when we were in price discovery, but the mania took way longer to hit. And then this year it's like 15 to 30K. And it was just like,
yeah,
I was feeling it. I mean, I wasn't.
And that's the thing, is that you have, and as Jedi said there earlier, I mean, that's the hardest part of this game, is you got to keep a level head, and you can't get sucked into the euphoria. And the worst part about it for a guy like me is I sit there and go, don't chase, what are you doing? Don't chase, don't do this. What are you doing? And people just like literally ignore me, and if anything, you don't get a lot of video views. I'm spitting out telling people that there are indicators in the marketplace that are telling you not to do anything. And, through that last Bitcoin bull, like up to 60 some odd K there, it was the same thing. The indicators were screaming warning. But, the guy who says, you've come too late to the party. You're walking into a trap. Do you think that guy's going to sell a lot of stake? No.
He's sitting in an empty stadium.
And that's the worst part about what I do. And of course, when the market was bottoming last November, and Litecoin, we were getting ready for the Litecoin halving, and every bloody cycle, the market loves to rally about a month or so ahead of that Litecoin halving event. And then literally as soon as a month before that halving event comes, they like pull the rug out from underneath Litecoin, and that kills the crypto rally for that particular part of the cycle. And now we're in this part now. So you could argue that actually from cycle to cycle to cycle, there were sort of postmarks to look for that would actually sort of tell you, hey, whoa, slow down. So like last November, like I said, you couldn't give away Litecoin. Nobody was interested in it at all. And I was putting out tweets, hey, weekly W's, blah, blah, blah. We're heading into the halving event. There'll be a rally, blah, blah, blah. Seasonality, buy when it snows, sell when it goes, all just the normal lines. And yet nobody would listen. That's the kind of crappy thing about what I do, is that I'm usually saying the message that it's the one thing that the public doesn't want to hear.
which is funny, because it's a marker of good trading. I mean,
should be.
You want to be on the opposite side of that mania, but I imagine it hampers your business.
It doesn't make for good sales.
Yeah.
Did we lose Brian?
I was hoping it was not me, but also
no, we've lost
sucks
him.
if it's Brian. We'll get him back here.
You know what I'm finding really interesting at the moment, and it's kind of like what Brian is really good at teaching. It's like it's about the truth of the matter, right? And I think that there's very little truth in this space from probably the most influential people. Like, I was on YouTube the other day and stumbled across a short, and it was one of these YouTubers. I think it was Moon Cole, and he was basically trying to sell an idea around some technical analysis that he did. But his technical analysis was absolute garbage. And the garbage that he was spewing was that Bitcoin is about to rally. The price was at 30,500. It was clearly overcooked, but he just manufactures this idea that it's going to now go to 40K. And that's what people want to hear. It's like it's the most bizarre thing. It's like, do you want to know what's actually going on, or do you want somebody to tell you what you'd love to hear, but knowing that it's not the truth? I just don't get it. And that's what these guys sell.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. In 2017, through whatever grapevine, I heard about this, their school, and I went to sign up, and it was the mania. It was like September 2017, and I couldn't get in. It was full. And I just kind of left it. I never went back. And then somebody else in another chat group of mine mentioned it in 2018, September. And I went and joined. And I'm like, damn, I really wish I joined in September 2017, because what was TRI doing that whole time in the chat was just like, take profit. We're going to sell. We're getting like, this is way too hot. I mean, looking back, it was the most obvious thing ever now that what we know, right? It was fully parabolic, like absolute insanity Bitcoin rally. Then it went into this altcoin mania. And at the time I did take some profit because I was like, wow, this is a lot. I should pay myself, but I left 3 times that on the table. So we're just trying to reboot BB. I was actually just about to segue into his charts and just kind of go over Bitcoin and stuff. This really is a good time in the market to listen to a guy like Brian, because he's got some really rational ideas about how the next 6 months will look. He's been through a bunch of cycles, business cycles too, and I want to hear what his take is just on some of this macro stuff. He I don't want to speak for him, so I'll wait for him to come back, but he said something in the chat this morning that I thought was pretty great. I'm hoping we don't have to relaunch a stream. He's getting an unable to connect to session right now, so we're going to just wait for the producer to get working on that with him. In the meantime, let's go to Bitcoin. So this is the Gann square I have for this cycle. For those of you, this is from the TRI level 2. It's a cool tool. I don't trade directly off it, but I use it for kind of like higher time frame ebb and flow. And it's just, think of all these lines, which I know they look ridiculous. They're really friggin' cool though. Gann was an absolute genius. If you don't know, check out Gann's interview. Who interviewed him? It was one of the big 5 traders, the fathers of trading, whatever they call them. I'll remember it in a bit. But anyways, it's a really cool interview.
RT, what does the Gann actually show us? What is the whole point of it?
Yeah, so it's complicated in the sense that you have to square your chart. So I won't get into it, but you can go lock price bar ratio, say like 100. And to do this one, I wrote down here, I had to set it to 500. But once you have your thing squared and locked, see when I zoom out, it doesn't compress the price.
Yeah.
So once you do that, then this kind of geometric stuff works, and you get your Gann square fixed over here. I don't do these very much, so I don't even know which one it's under. Let me go find it. Gann square fixed, and you basically take it from the low of an impulse to the first high of the impulse, and then and it spits out the rest of the square. And then you can kind of trade off some of these levels. And then there's specific parts about each of these squares that matter more than others. But for an example, this is one I did, and I show this all the time on stream because I'm just fascinated by how much it's still working. This is one I did from last cycle, and I had lost it for most of the cycle. It was on an old template I didn't really look at, but I made it just by using the bottom here, dragging it up to the top here, and then it just spits out the rest, as we just saw. I actually don't remember the ratio I used. It's so long ago. It was like 2019. But you can see the play that it gets off of these lines. Now, this purple 8-to-1 line is probably the most important, and that's generally just because it's like a buy area. So during the COVID crash, you're trading this, you're like, oh, 8-to-1, that's a pretty good buy. It's against the low. But anyways, it's just fascinating to me how this thing played out. I mean, not only did it put the top in the market, this top of the square, basically marked the top. This level here, Gann horizontal at around 28K, basically created, I would say, that the the support resistance that formed around it since, right? So it came down, kind of bounced off it, almost came into it here, rested here, broke through, was like, it's just magical shit. So, and then as you can see this year, it's been like pinning us down still. So this is like 4 years later, and these levels apparently appear to be still getting play. And even like the most recent drops came along this final arc. So it's just trippy stuff. So I don't trade off it directly. Like I wasn't sitting there like, I'm going to short this arc blindly. I use it as a study. It's interesting. So I created one for this cycle.
Do the fibs play a role in that, in kind of like the analysis and the lines that are being drawn?
No, it's a different thing. So Gann, and this is like one tool of Gann's kind of thing. Like Jack Sparrow, BTC Jack Sparrow on Twitter is an old buddy of mine, and he bought like the Gann anthology. Just checking in the chat, make sure we're working on Brian. We may have to reboot something here, but yeah, he had this insanely thick book that was like everything Gann. I mean, this guy goes down the rabbit hole. And the crazy thing is, when he was around, whatever it was, 1918, he was doing all this with like protractors and pencils. But point is, like, case in point, this year's, I just took off the low and I drew it up to this high. And right away, this thing was just like, hey, look at me, I'm an arc. And it just, all that price action was just based on this. Is it and look, a lot of people say, well, TA, well, it did that because everyone was looking at that. I don't think everyone was looking at these Gann things. Like, I really don't. I don't see Gann squares anywhere. And yet, for whatever reason, the geometry in the universe, I mean, this thing was just riding this arc down. And then as soon as it flipped it, it retested it cutely and just teleported. Where did it teleport to? Like, right to the next Gann angle. So I am a student of this stuff. I find it fascinating. Again, I don't trade directly off of it. Looking back here, I wish I did. But I'm watching this one, and yeah, I'm watching this 8-to-1 level, not calling for that price. That people always get annoyed. They're like, yeah, Bitcoin's not going 18K. I'm like, I don't know. I just know if it does that I want to buy it there. I want to not be caught off guard. Anyways, so we've got back. Welcome, sir. I was a little worried there for a sec.
Hi there.
And I've just been ranting about Gann, but I was really hoping the next thing we would do is flip to your screen share and just kind of pick your brain a little bit. Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I haven't used this chat thing before, so I don't think I hit any buttons, but oh well.
No, it does mess up. It likes to troll us from time to time with bugs.
Well, it just seems awfully coincidental, just as I was just saying, like, you got to do exactly the opposite of what the man wants you to do, right? And Client's gone.
Somebody pulled the plug on this guy. He's giving away the sauce. If you look top left in your browser, you will see
left. Rendezvous?
Excuse me, top right on Rendezvous, you'll see a little share screen icon.
Okay. All right. So let's see what I got here. Share screen and camera. Share screen, disable camera. Which one should I do?
Stick to that one. Share screen and camera.
Okay.
And then select window, so you can share like multiple tabs. It'll just be one browser window. So make sure you put away your Pornhub.
Okay. Naked ladies are gone. Oh, so now interesting. So the Rendezvous right now, the screen is frozen for me. But I do see you guys moving down below.
Crazy rain.
So I'm not quite sure what I'm showing on the screen. How do I show?
We can see
yeah, there you go. You got the Hxro.
Yeah. So actually, this is a special page that do you mind if I just do a quick shill? Sorry.
Yeah, no, plug it.
Anyway, as Colin had said, we have a new school term coming up here. Starts in a few days. Normally this package, the level one is like $1,200 or something. So Colin was like, God, I don't need the referrals. Pass it on to a Hxro people. Might as well give them the discount. So we have the Hxro special here at just under $900 for you guys. So I'll give you this page. I think I already gave it to you, but I'll give it to you once again.
Yeah, we'll make sure the link is in the description, guys.
Yeah, so, if you can put it in the description of the video, whatever. This is a cool page because there's good old Colin and his his endorsement. But I like this page because really, there's no better salesperson for the course than previous students. They're absolutely the best salespeople for the course. Not listening to me, not listening to any TRI people, just listen to the previous students. And I think the course has been pretty well received. I think we got a pretty good review from both of you of the program's value. So, and the price point is ridiculous in this hyperinflation world. That's what you learn in the program is definitely worth $900. So
it's pretty funny because I actually paid like $1,100 when I took it. So
you
guys got cheaper during this.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know who's
we're
screwing you
the
over
only
here.
idiots in the world where we're in hyperinflation and yet our prices are going down. Like, what the hell? Something's not right there.
Yeah.
Anyway, so check that page out, and if you can take advantage of the discount, like we said, we just knocked a couple $100 off of the price for a special for you guys. This is your page. It is the Hxro page. So
Sweet.
there's the shill, and we'd love to have you part of the program this fall.
Hell yeah.
Now, you want to? Did you say you wanted me to transition over to talk a little Bitcoin?
Yeah, let's.
Yes,
I mean,
please.
yeah, 100% Bitcoin, like cycles. I thought something you said this morning really caught me, which is somebody was saying, like, is it different this time and all this? And you were kind of like, nah, probably just not going to be different. Tops, it's always different. Bottoms, it's always different. It's not different. And I thought that was an interesting kind of starting point for the cycle kind of part that we're at.
Yeah, well, and that's, if anything, that's the hallmark, is that's actually what you have to hunt for, is you have to wait for the public to go, oh, no, price isn't coming back because this time
it's all over.
It's different.
It's all over. It's all over, guys.
Yeah, for real this time, guys. Seriously.
It's all over, guys. It's all over.
And the sad part about it is it works the exact same on the upside as well. So you know that the bull market is done when we're zooming higher here and somebody comes out, and there are a couple, sort of crypto influencers, especially the guys who got involved in the glass node stuff, all that sort of on-chain analysis. And literally the moment they come out and say, no, price is never going back down because this time it's different. As soon as you hear them say that, oh, well, all right, well, that was the end of that bull market. And that's our cue that we have to actually start exiting, right? And it's just as hard as it's going to be investing your hard-earned money when everybody around you is going to say, this time it's different, it's never coming back. Well, it's the exact opposite at the top of the market, right? So, and I think I had said before I got disconnected there a few minutes ago that I started to hear the chatter just even this summer. I actually heard people this summer saying, Bitcoin's going to go to all-time highs. There was a couple altcoins that were in sort of the regulator sort of crosshairs, like Cripple and all those guys. And the Cripple bulls were like, no, there's no going back. We're going straight to $10 a coin. And it's just like, oh, you can't be serious, right? So as soon as you start hearing that, that's the warning sign for you.
And that actually marked our top this year for now, is the Ripple case. The Ripple case win. Sadly, I was very much, I missed the pump that day, and then I got in, and in retrospect, it was like a perfect time to short if I wanted to get a piece of whatever the hell was coming up next. But I got very much sucked into the bullish euphoria.
It is dangerous to short venture capital. You can have your face ripped off. So I'm not really the biggest fan of shorting these kind of things, but nonetheless, I understand what you said. In fact, I was long Cripple from the bottom, and it did spike. And I'm not really motivated. If anything, I'm accumulating now. But I could have banged out doubles on that one, and I think also Stellar Lumens, I think also doubled as well. Yeah. And I was just too lazy. I think I was on vacation or something when it happened.
Dude, there was 3 weekly W's on XRP this year that all came in, one after another. Reload zone, weekly W, reload zone, weekly W.
Yeah.
And I was seeing it throughout the year, but it was such a high time frame thing, and I knew their case was ongoing. And yeah, in retrospect, I was like, oh, that would have been just a very simple trade as far as like executing. But
Yeah, well, I did buy the bottom, so even now with the price coming back, I'm still up, so I'm not uncomfortable. But I could have been a little bit more, I guess, active there through that rally. But
You know what's really going to piss people off about Ripple is I think that it actually, a lot of what the bulls say about it, replacing the Swift global payments network, like it actually is quietly happening. Brother-in-law of mine is in payments, just international payment solutions. He just works in that space. And when I asked him in May, I was just getting to know him and I was talking to him about it. And I was like, he's like, yeah, we were actually exploring some options. I was like, let me guess, Ripple. He's like, yeah. He's like, yeah, that's what everyone's using.
I remember when
it doesn't mean XRP goes up, but everyone, like a lot of these things, institutional wise, like they're all using RippleNet.
When I first got into the space in 2013, I remember a guy that I was talking with on TradingView a lot. Even then, he was saying that Ripple is a far better remittance platform than Bitcoin ever will be. But the issue there is that, of course, Ripple is highly centralized and highly controlled.
XRP, yeah, in particular, like, so I'm not that excited about XRP, but what I was thinking is I was like, dude, it's gonna piss so many people off in crypto because we all hate Ripple. It's kind of the joke, but it actually,
that's why I like to call it cripple.
Yeah, it's actually kind of doing all the things that these bulls are saying. It's just, I don't know that it'll reflect in the price. I don't think we're gonna see $580.
Yeah, that's the issue, right? Is that you start getting into market cap, it kind of makes you a little dizzy.
Yeah.
So, what would be realistic? And then the question I would have is, if you're just purely using this for remittance, then does the coin actually have to have any value at all? Does it make a difference if it's 1 penny or if it's 50 pennies or if it's 500 pennies? Does it make any difference if you're just using it to actually just facilitate transactions?
No.
So that's a bit of a trap that I'm worried about. And I think for a lot of this sort of, and I don't think crypto is POS, but what worries me about a lot of POS, and especially like token, the tokenomics kind of people, is I believe that the value of these assets is purely sentiment driven. So when everybody's in love with these things and everybody's buying, up goes price. And then conversely, when the cycle's over and you actually start to see price erode, then, oh my God, the depths of the lows is just horrific.
And you see the difference there when you have a value accrual token, which is kind of a newer concept this cycle. And I used it as an example in another show with GMX. And so you can actually see which tokens have some inherent value to the holders.
Yeah.
So they're getting paid cash flow to hold this thing. It's still going to sell off. The speculators are still going to come out. The dust will still settle, but the troughs are way less aggressive. I think GMX came off like 60%, 40% versus like an 80, 90, 99. So you see these subtle hints in the market of like, the impact of a value accrual token, a cash flow token versus 100% utility,
this is where the regulators step in and they get all upset, right? Because if you actually sell an asset with the anticipation of actually making money from it, like that's part of the sales pitch. You collect a dividend, you collect POS coins, right? You're staking, so you get paid, and then you're expecting some sort of actual rate of return on that payment. The regulators, they start to get really upset over that stuff. And I remember I had a buddy of mine who was in the ADA name right from day one. And when ADA was going zooming up there, I mean, he had all his master nodes. Do you remember? I don't know whether you guys ran master nodes or not, but he had his like master nodes for ADA. He had his master nodes for Dash. And they were just like, he had like 10 of them all on his desk, right? I can't remember the other ones. And then, and so he's like, seeing all these coins come in for his POS work. And of course, current market price of ADA and, Dash and all that. Remember Amanda's Penthouse? Were you in crypto for Amanda's Penthouse? I don't know whether.
I think I've heard the term, but I don't know. I wasn't.
Anyway, I mean, a Dash went like just ridiculous.
Those things were printing at one point. I think they cost 50K and they were printing some absurd amount, or they cost
Yeah,
500K.
and people were thinking, I'll buy a master node and I'm set for life, right? Because and then of course the price just collapses, right? So on the other side of the cycle. So, the key to this game, it seems to me, is to try and identify the new players. Like if you identify Do Kwon right out of the gate, like Sjord is TRI's CTO. That's what he likes to call himself, Chief Technology Officer. Actually, even Sjord, our CTO, you can even see on this page. Where is Sjord? There he is. When I was in Breda, actually, these are some OGs. I don't know whether you know Senna. Senna was buying Bitcoin when it was like $1. I mean, he's set for life. He doesn't have to worry. But anyway, this is TRI CTO, Sjord. And actually, hats off to Sjord. He has actually now built, for the longest period in my life, I manually ran and then I sort of hacker PHP coder built an algorithm that trades the market based on the breadth of the market. And Sjord has actually built a crypto breadth algo. And I got to say, man, it's beautiful. And it's actually auto trading now on its own. No, you can't be a part of it. You can subscribe to the platform and get the signals, but we're not going to trade your money. Your money is your money.
I know. I saw some guys asking for the automation. And,
God,
I was just kind of like, oh,
yeah. I mean, we're going to get rich off of this. This is awesome. And if you want to subscribe, you can get the signals when they come in, but it's your responsibility to trade your money. So anyway, point is,
I've talked about it on the stream before. I've shared the signals, not in real time, but like sometimes in retrospect. I'm like, hey, look, because I don't want to like hack your guys' stuff. But the reason I need the automation too, like I got to figure out how to take these signals with a webhook out of your Discord, because I think we got along overnight last night, and I just saw it now. I'm like, oops, and price is up a couple $100, but
actually,
it is actually doing really well this year.
There was one sell signal that came in, and like literally the next day, the price of Bitcoin dropped like 10%.
Yeah, that was that news 2 weeks ago. It caught it 8 hours before.
Ridiculous.
And did I see it? No. I saw the daily close. The daily close was terribly ugly. Had I stayed up, it comes in at 12:30 a.m. my time, so I never see it at the moment.
That's I have suggested to Mr. CTO that the time of the signals could be worked on.
Yeah, I would love that.
And so he fully understands that, but just the fact that like it's interesting because I don't know whether you remember like the 2017-18 bull. Actually, right at the top of the market, some of the OGs, like there was a gentleman that I used to work with, Alex Stirk. I don't know whether you're
I do, yeah.
Alex from you,
the beard.
Yeah, and he was kind of like, we need a developer cycle. We need a developer cycle. God, this euphoria is ridiculous. Just to, and they always say, careful what you wish for. You might just get it good and hard. And Ubik is a shadow of its former self, but that's another conversation for another day. But the point is that we have taken advantage of this developer cycle, kind of like what you guys, and really, I'd love to tout your guys' horn here. I'm super interested. I'm sharing the screen, right? Somebody shared with me that you guys are introducing this 0-day futures. And I'd love to have a conversation with you guys about that. I don't know whether I'm showing that on the screen or not, but anyway.
It's not on this screen. You got to pull it onto the window with your Bitcoin
okay, chart. So if I go like that, now you see it?
There you go.
All right. So anyway, somebody told me to do a little research and get ready for the conversation today. So they sent me this. But anyway, just the point is that we have, and actually maybe I can show you our dashboard. But we have taken advantage of the developer cycle, and we've really worked our butts off here to just try and get everything up to speed. So here's the engine, and as you can see, we actually had a crypto long signal fire there recently. And
you got to put that on the same window. We're still seeing the zero day.
Yeah, I did that wrong again, didn't I? My apologies. Let's put that up here. All right. This is basically the dashboard. I won't get into the crypto signals today. Stuart's got to clean the page up a little bit, but it's interesting how we actually had the S&P 500 breakdown here.
Yeah.
But anyway, the point being that we've taken advantage of the developer cycle, and this is rock and roll. In fact, actually, here's our crypto top 30 universe. So, and what's really cool of what Stuart's created here is that he's got an algorithm that sort of runs through and it filters out all the stable coins and stuff like that, and just gives us the top 30 names in the universe. And so it's like a dynamic breadth indicator. It's just hats off to Stuart. He's executed. This was extremely difficult. We've taken advantage of the developer cycle and we've got it in place, and big hats off to Stuart. So I just wanted to give him a big shout out. We crossed a major hurdle here recently with the site actually basically the computers. It's kind of funny in the daily brief. I'm like, woohoo! The computers have officially taken over. So, and this is perfect for this whole coming cycle, because I think that this whole coming cycle is all going to be about artificial intelligence. So, it's one thing to be able to manually look at this chart and discern everything out. It's quite another to have the computer do it all, and then the computer to tell you, all right, well, I want to go long here and I want to go short here, and this is my risk, and blah, 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 blah. So I'm super excited. And of course, for the signals to work, that always helps.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I think it's not enough to get a signal. Like, I've been in signal groups in my earliest days. That's where you start, right? You're like, oh, what do I buy? When do I buy? I don't know anything. I'm going to pay someone else to tell me. But you don't manage the risk, or you don't get the close signal, or the signal's saturated and 10 guys are market buying when it comes in, or you show up late from work and you missed it, and so the trade's already 5%, 10% up. So in that sense, it's really the risk management piece and the framing of the actual trade that goes around the signal that is the value piece.
And I mean, that's a really good point, because to actually understand the mechanics of the sort of auto trading signals generation, I think it actually behooves you to understand how the signals are generated, why the signals are generated. And then once you understand the mechanics of that behind the scenes, then when the signals come in, you can kind of go, okay, that makes sense. For instance, like we said there just a few minutes ago, we had a cute little algo long signal fire. And now you can see, gee whiz, it looks like W's are starting to come in on price. And we have things like bullish breakouts in MACD, and Willie is putting in W's, and RSI is putting in W's, and OBV is putting in W's. So I guess it kind of makes sense why the computers are getting more bullish. So I wholeheartedly agree with you there, Colin. If anything, it's almost a little dangerous. And one thing we do not want people to do is just simply subscribe to a signaling service, and then that's the end of their education. Well, I'm just going to do whatever you tell me to do, and that's it. That's actually asking for trouble. So
it's a great way to not make it.
Yeah, it's a great
like just
way
the mindset.
to set yourself up for failure.
Yeah, the mindset is excuse my harshness, but it's a loser mindset. It's this idea that like, I don't want to do the work, or and look, in fairness, people sometimes don't have time to do the work. They got kids, they got jobs, they just want to find a way out. And I sympathize with that, but you've got to put in the time. But yeah, that's exactly it. You pay someone a fee and you take the
You want to buy an ETF? There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
And actually, I'm a little surprised, and it probably will be something that comes down the pike here, is, I think I even saw Kathy Woods today. She is now applying to float an Ethereum ETF.
Yes.
So,
she did that yesterday. So that was yesterday, and today there's
My
talk about doing
apologies,
a
yesterday.
BTC one.
So that little wick we had, the Darth Maul yesterday, that was a sort of a news-driven.
That was on her.
Yeah,
that was on
let's see.
It's like on the hourly, you can see
thing
it
right there.
Yeah.
So obviously she moves the market. I think just tongue in cheek, sorry. Remember we had said like this was Peter Fink coming in saying, I want a Bitcoin ETF, and the market just launched straight up from there.
You know what's crazy is that sat for 8 hours. It was such a delayed reaction. I thought I saw the news drop at 10 a.m. that morning. It was more like they were planning to file, and then the market didn't really move. And then later that night they did file, and that news moved it up that first little bit. And then we even got that tiny wick down, which was local reload zone for that little move. And the algo signaled along the night before. So it was kind of crazy. That's the first algo trade I caught. And I rode, I'd say to that first leg, and then I took a little off, and then I rode the rest up to the top. So that's when I fell in love with the algo. I was like, holy shit, it knew about the news. Somehow it was baked into the numbers in the market a little bit ahead of time. It was crazy.
Well, see, and this is a really cool part about what the algo is, and this is why it's so unique, is that it measures the breadth of the market. That's all of this. So it's not really like it's measuring one particular asset. It's measuring the entirety of the whole market. And how does the entire crypto market feel at any given point in time? And that's what makes it very unique. And I think what makes it extremely powerful. Have you ever heard the expression, a rising tide lifts all boats?
Mm-hmm. Once or twice.
A sinking tide sinks all boats, or a falling tide sinks all boats. So that's, if you can remember that analogy, that's the way the algo works, is that it's trying to identify when the tide is rising and when the tide is falling. And really, the algo's number one job is just to make sure that you're positioned on the right side of the market. It's not necessarily saying, hey, this trade's going to produce $1 million Lambo trade. It's just simply always has you on the right side of whatever the inertia is. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And that's actually, so that's the one thing I took into my plan. I have not traded it very effectively myself, but I only trade in the direction of the algo at this time. So if the most recent signal was long, I'm looking for longs. If the most recent signal was short, I'm only allowed to take shorts. That's like a very simple rule I put into my plan this summer. And if anything, the thing it's done is prevented me from over trading. And then the odd time I actually catch the move, and it's kind of cool. But real quick, you mentioned ETFs. I want to transition into that chat because last week on the stream, Jedi told me he's not very bullish on the Bitcoin ETF. He gave me a bunch of reasons why I wasn't going to do it. I was calling him out for being too much of a bear, and I think it'll be an interesting conversation for you guys, and I want to get Jedi involved in the conversation.
I mean, the ETFs are already here, so it's not really like they're not here. The issue is that the United States and the banks, the way the banks, I mean, you know me, so I don't have the biggest, what's the word I'm looking for? The most enthusiastic attitude about the banksters. And I think half of the reason why we're in crypto, of course, is because of the way the banks have historically sort of set themselves up and what they've done to us humans. I'm trying to find my little Bitcoin list. As you can see, I follow a few things in the market. Here we are. So, there are actually ETFs. This is the ProShares Bitcoin Strategy ETF. This thing actually tracks Bitcoin price very closely, right? We bottomed last November, and we talked, and buy when it snows, sell when it goes. You probably heard that from Brian once or twice. So technically that is an exchange traded fund that's just doing its thing.
It's, and of course, Canada has two.
Canada, right? So you're here in Canada. Hey, there's another Bitcoin ETF. And actually, I think that the Rothschilds actually like to use Canada as sort of a test bed for what their plan is to do in the entire global system. And of course, you were damn lucky you locked in your house when you did. But, Klaus's attitude, you will own nothing and be happy. So you can see what they're doing to house prices in the country of Canada.
Yeah.
Literally anybody coming to this country, there is no way in hell they are ever going to be able to buy a house. It's just, it's impossible, which is so tragic. But I think that's part of Klaus's plan, and it's part of the Rothschilds' plan.
testing it
So,
here, and then they're gonna bubble the rest.
well,
Just-
I think what happens is that they basically do everything that they want to do in the big US market. They do it in Canada. Right? This is a Bitcoin fund that's traded on the TSX. And you can see buy when it snows, sell when it goes. And I hate to say it, but I mean, I don't know. Some clown goes on the interneting all about things like W's. I don't know. Can you see that W? Then he talks about things like M's. I don't know. Can you see that M? So everything that we teach is exactly the same. And if we pull up the Bitcoin chart, it looks identical. So it's not really like the ETFs aren't here, right? There's the W. And actually, it's interesting how they even took the cash market to new highs there, but they didn't take this ETF to new highs. That's kind of interesting.
I know that was actually a cleaner setup. You could get the reload zone and not get stopped out.
Now you wonder, did Mr. Fink help to set a little bit of a trap here? And remember, this was Mr. Fink's. Hey, I want a Bitcoin ETF, and I'm gonna ramp price straight up to new highs and get you all to panic buy. And because you've taken the education program, but we have a very strict rule around TRI that this is not a buy signal. I mean, it's great to see, woohoo, we're all gonna get rich. But the rule is that you have to wait for this trend line break and then get a W on the other side of a trend line. And there's your buy signal. And notice what they did. Straight up, everybody, oh, we're all going to get rich. Oh, it's high. And then just a grind lower. Just drive you crazy. I mean, that's capitalism 101 if I've ever seen it. Which is so sad, right? Because it's a really... And the thing that bothers me right now is that everybody wants these ETFs, but I would actually argue that if you're a crypto purist, if you really believe in the blockchain and you believe in
There he is.
all right. So this is right down Jedi's.
This is where Jedi was not very pleased with the whole topic last week. I'd love to hear his take on it.
What are they going to do with these ETFs? And this, I mean, for the longest period in my life, house prices didn't move an inch. You could, if you were growing up and you were thinking about raising a family, house prices didn't move. And the banks were actually not allowed to be in the market. After the Great Depression, they kicked all of the banks out and they put in specific rules that the banks were not allowed to participate in the securities business. So what happened at the end of the Cold War? The banks, because they basically own the politicians, they weaseled their way right back into the market. And more importantly, they actually, quote unquote, securitized the housing industry. And look at what's happened to housing. And of course, like I said, Canada is an absolute train wreck example of all this. Mm-hmm. So do we really want Wall Street in crypto?
I think the worst thing that's ever happened to crypto was the involvement of Wall Street and the suits. Yeah. I think we had our own playground. It had its own rules. It was completely decorrelated from traditional markets. And I personally think that the worst thing that ever happened was those guys coming into the room. And I think just to expand further on to what it is that you were talking about, Colin, and my perspective around the ETF, I do believe that an ETF in the US context will happen, but I don't think it will happen with the Biden administration and the boomers that are currently in control there. I think they are averse to the whole thing on the highest level, just purely because it tests the very resolve of the bankers that you so eloquently spoke about, Brian. I think bankers in Canada are probably amateurs compared to the ones in the US. I think we saw it play out.
I think they all work on the same team.
Yeah.
I would actually argue that they probably have meetings and stuff that they don't talk about with the public. And 100%. They have a very specific script. And since the United States is the hegemony currency, I mean, it's actually blatantly obvious that the United States moved rate first. They always have to have the highest interest rate. And then all the other minions, their rate is just slightly lower than the Americans, but they must follow suit. And that is your tell about the collusion of this international banking cartel. Because like I was barking about there a few minutes ago, the Canada never did have a housing crisis in 2008. Canada's economy is a commodities-based society, and Canada's economy was doing great. And yes, maybe prices of commodities came down, but there was no reason, there was no housing crisis here. And why do we have these absolutely insane hyperinflationary prices here in Canada right now for housing? Well, it's because it's not a function of the value of the house. It's a function of the money supply. And anybody who's watching this and you want to do a little research, there's a gentleman by the name of Milton Friedman, who in the 1970s went on endlessly about if governments print money, that is inflation. And like I said, Canada had no business doing quantitative easing, which is printing money. Simple as that. And as a result, we have this hyperinflationary world. And that, in my opinion, is the sort of smoking gun that this is all collusionary. They're all working together, which is a really tragic sort of commentary on our society and what this 21st century world's going to look like. But, let's not open that can of worms today. I guess just the point here is that, like I said, looking at this price chart, and I think I have the price chart on the screen, right?
Yep.
So, I mean, it was great to see. It was a huge face rip, but, there were a couple sort of warnings about this. First off, remember Brian getting all excited about how this looks like a W. Love that.
Move your screen a little left. Our faces are covering. There you go.
All right, so a nice W here, beautiful, love that. But notice this low is what's called a V bottom. This low, V bottom. That's not sustainable. These lows have to be tested, and we have to find out whether the market really does want to bottom here. You notice here, V bottom, we rallied away from it, and then we came down and tested it and blasted through it, right? Another V bottom, rallied away, tested it. Okay, maybe we got something here, and we crapped out, and then crapped out again, right? So unfortunately, as long as we see these V bottoms, that to me says that at some point down the road, we're going to have to go and test these lows, which kind of sucks. I mean, it's just, it's capitalism 101. So, what? One thing that I do a show for the Coinigy guys. I don't know whether you guys ever go on Coinigy or not, but
I used to love Coinigy when I first started.
Yeah, fun little crypto platform. And actually one of their sort of marketing guys, he and I do a show on Wednesdays, and sort of teaching him a little bit about TA and maybe hopefully helping the Coinigy people like subscription wise and that kind of stuff. And I pointed out to this gentleman that there are a number, like if we actually zoom out, I always like to start my analysis off the highest time frame possible. So I always like to start off at the very minimum, like a weekly chart, but I suppose we could probably even do like monthly charts now. But this is a really cool script that was written by a TRIer, and it just simply identifies bullish and bearish divergences in price right on your price screen without having to have all the indicators up. But you can see when we put that W in last fall, and right, remember this was the whole FTX debacle and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Notice, look at all the confirmed bullish divergence here. So it was almost like there was like a little hint in the marketplace. Hey, price isn't nearly as weak as you think it is. And sure enough, right, price basically doubled. Oh, that's not a bad trade. What do you think? Is there a couple warning signs here?
Only 8.
Yeah. So on this, and it's interesting that the ETF did not go to new highs, but the actual cash market, and I use Stamp. I like Stamp as a nice cash proxy. I don't know whether it's the best one to use or not, but it's been the one that I've used ever since I've been in this space. But anyway, point here is on this move up top here, you can see that price made higher highs. But when you look at all the indicators, especially RSI, like Julian, one of TRI's principals, he loves using RSI. And you can just see, I mean, don't overthink this stuff, people, right? You can see RSI's making lower highs, prices making higher highs. That gets a divergence, and there is RSI, confirmed bearish divergence. Me personally, I'm a big fan of MACD, and this is it's not out of the box MACD indicator. The out of the box MACD indicator has the MACD line and the signal line. It probably looks like that to you. I don't really use the signal lines. What I really want to use MACD for is just to simply tell me sort of the oomph, the inertia of the market. And the histogram, and this is the relationship between the MACD and its signal line, it works great to visually show me divergence. And of course, you can see that nice polite M up there. And we just, making lower highs and lower lows. And look how long ago MACD was actually going into divergence. So it was actually going into divergence on the move up in the spring. So the move, Mr. Fink's little pump there that got everybody all uber bullish there through this, June, July period, that was a trap. And if anything, if you're a trader, you love to see this signal in MACD, and what we do is we're not even at positive. We're actually just rolling over at the zero line on that move to new highs. That's a hugely bearish setup. So I guess just the point here, and I had made reference to this earlier, is that from the highest time frame, from that weekly perspective, slow down, keep it simple, stupid. Don't overthink this stuff. There was warning. And, you've worked with me long enough, Colin. You know how the expression goes. And I don't know whether Jedi can remember this or not, but this is actually a very typical Wall Street trade. Is this a sign maybe Wall Street has arrived? Buy when it snows, right? Look at what time of year it is. And sell when that snow goes. So this is actually a very, very normal seasonal pattern that this has got Wall Street written all over it. Anyway.
Yeah. And I've been talking about that a lot this year, that seasonally the investment window that I'm looking at now for this next cycle is kind of that like tax selling January. I'm trying my best, and I'm really, really trying to not overtrade. It's really hard when you're exposed to like ideas every day, and there is a lot of an energy on chain, or at least there was a few weeks ago. But I'm doing my best to maintain like a 62 to 65% cash position, because I just, looking at that chart, I'm like, oh, fuck, you're right. We're probably going to come down, reload zone, tag at least, which is like 21, 22. Whatever it is.
I got three things in my head I want to say all at the same time. Sorry. Okay, so number one, I'm called the rational investor, right? TRI, the rational investor. What the hell is rational analysis? So a huge part of this, a big part of it is technical analysis. And you might even argue that rational analysis is the overlap and let's say this is TA over here. And then this over here is fundamental analysis. Now, if you're going to study something like Bitcoin, and really what you want to try and do is find where the fundamentalists go, yep, this asset has value. And the technicians go, yeah, this thing's a buy. It's at the bottom end of the range, and it's putting in W's and bullish divergences, blah, blah, blah. So the question ultimately here is, how do you come up with fundamental valuations on something like Bitcoin? And this all comes back to cost of production. And actually, we have a fun script here. I don't know if I'm going to blow up my browser doing this, but we'll give it a try. I think I do it like that. There we go. And we'll go crypto. Where's crypto? There we are. And cost of production. Now this is a bit old, but you remember Shane? I think you still work with Andrew. I don't know.
Andrew works at my fund. Shane was actually at my house a few months ago. He came to visit on his road trip.
There you go.
He's in RV life right now.
Okay, so this is basically Shane's script on trying to figure out what is the cost of production for one Bitcoin. And you can see here's the S17 miners way up here, S19, S19P, and S19XP. I don't know whether there's newer generations of equipment, but it's interesting how price, like, if we were looking at things like reload zones, right, we would say there's the bottom end of the range, there's top of the range I can buy when we're at or below reload zones or in green boxes. So on balance, as long as we were at this green box, but notice, when we started to perk up there in the summer, we're actually not in value anymore. And then if you want to try and apply things like fundamental analysis, well, what is the value of a Bitcoin? It is the cost to produce a Bitcoin. And so really it's a question of what is the industry standard now for people who actually mine Bitcoins? Like, yes, S17s are way up here, but I would imagine a lot of these like massive crypto mining farms, they're not running S17 equipment anymore.
No,
So
they're bankrupt.
Yeah, well, they probably just turned the machines off, right? And then, the question ultimately here is, I remember publicly traded crypto companies actually last year saying that their cost of production was like around $10,000, and actually maybe even a little lower than that. So with that said, and then we go back to our conversation about, technically speaking, fundamentally, and it really all depends. Do you believe that the miners are using the most efficient equipment? I would think so. That's just a personal opinion. I suppose there are probably people saying, well, there's still people mining with S17. But I think that probably industry standard is probably somewhere between these two equipment. And notice that if we did pull back down into value, cost of production, all that's going to be is just a test of the lows that we saw last year. And interestingly enough, this is exactly the same thing that happened last cycle. So this is last cycle. There is those cost of production numbers. And then, of course, we didn't have the S19s and all that. So, S17s, 13s, 9s, whatever, they were all up in this area. And then notice as we got into that sort of crisis window, was it a health crisis? Was it a manufactured crisis by the banksters to facilitate this move in the market? I'll leave that for you to decide on your own. But point is, look where they dumped price into. Not really, oh my God, it's the end of the world, Bitcoin's going to zero. No, actually, all they did was just dump price into value. That's all they did. So I might make the argument, why would anything be any different this go around? You see prices way up here. You see where the S19s are. Would it make sense for Bitcoin to come down in here? Would it make sense for Bitcoin just to maybe wash these lows, just to piss all the crypto kids off? Would it make sense?
I'll tell you what, if we did go down to those lows, you would get a wave of this time it's different and we're dead. So it would achieve that goal.
And that's the interesting thing is I'm actually starting to hear people now start to talk like, oh no, the story's over. And there's actually people going around saying you're not going to see new highs on Bitcoin ever again. It's just not going to happen. I mean, it's remarkable how quickly the sentiment in this space shifts back and forth and back and forth there.
Yeah.
So
and I think that's probably the key piece to this. Like I hear you talk and you're just kind of like, it is, you just got to wash the noise out. As somebody who was born on Twitter when I started crypto, it's noisy. At every high, there's somebody that's saying it'll go higher. At every low, there's somebody saying it'll go lower. So if you don't have conviction, if you don't have your own method,
well, so the key
then
here
you just
is
get lost.
how do you figure out what value is?
Yeah.
So
I'm just trying to wait for the reload zone at the very least.
Well, and I think
trying to be a good boy.
That's technical though. So I think that this is where, a lot of people, and it makes sense that the people that want to buy Bitcoin down at value, what were they talking up here to try and get price to start coming down? What were they saying? Oh, well, Bitcoin's bad for the environment. What? This has nothing to do with the environment, nothing at all. But you notice that, the Rothschilds and, the Finks of the world, they'll do the same thing. I mean, what really angers me now is that I actually heard Alan recently in an interview say that actually, global warming is not really that big of a thing. Can you
Who said
believe?
that? Alan Greenspan?
No, there's a gentleman who entered the Bitcoin space, and a lot of people got really angry at him for messing around with price and really screwing around through this cycle and running up little meme coins to ridiculous highs. And one guy in this space that got really, really angry at him just started calling him Alan from now on. And I've just called him that from now on. So if you don't know who I'm talking about, all TRIers know exactly who I'm talking about. But just the point being that this guy built an electric vehicle company. Now, you all know who I'm talking about now.
Elon.
And the point here is through that whole damn bull run. Now, obviously, he's taking a bit of profits on that Tesla stock now, right? So you never heard him say anything through the whole bull market about how actually, you know what, global warming's not really that big of a deal. But now that he's been paid and he's off doing some other fun projects, and he doesn't really have that much interest in Tesla anymore. And then, frankly speaking, I think Tesla's yesterday's story. Now, all of a sudden, all these guys, they don't care about the environment anymore. Peter Fink comes out publicly saying BlackRock Capital is not going to make any more public ESG. You know what ESG is and all that nonsense?
Yeah.
They're not going to make any more comments about ESG anymore. It's entirely up to local governments. Mm-hmm. What a crock. I mean, these capitalists are borderline evil. So like I said, now a recent interview I saw with Alan was he comes out and he says, well, actually, it turns out global warming is not really that big of a deal. Oh my God. You got
to. You know, what's funny. I'm reading a book as of 2 days ago called Apocalypse Never by Michael.
That's a good name.
By Michael Schellenberger. It's interesting. And he's an environmentalist, but I don't want to give the full synopsis, but he's essentially trying to rationalize the conversation around the environment. He's like, climate deniers are wrong. We do have an impact on the climate, but like climate apocalyptic, stuff is also harmful, and it's kind of become the norm. And he's like, the reality is somewhere in the middle here, where we're not actually that screwed.
I was a commodities broker for a very long time. So I know how the commodities industry works. Do you know that as we sit here, there are literally bubbling pools of natural gas that are being emitted from the planet 24/7, and they are constantly rising to the surface out in the ocean. And if you drive a boat up into it, you could actually literally float right on the top of the water because there is so much natural gas just naturally coming out of the planet. So, unfortunately, we are being played a lot here, but let's not. The purpose of this was not to open up that can of worms.
Yeah, that's
a deep. That's
a level 3 rant.
Yeah, you need to have open eyes and just ask yourself especially when politicians here's a fun little one for your audience. How does Brian tell when a politician is lying to you?
They open their mouth.
Speaking.
Yeah. Exactly. Their lips are moving, right? Yeah. So when you start hearing the politicians getting involved in all this conversation, there's other things going on in the background, right? So anyway, the point that I'm trying to make here with just this, because I actually have to hit the road here in less than 20 minutes. So
yeah, we're getting close to top.
I mean, I sure hope you guys have enjoyed the conversation here today. My apologies for hogging so much of your time here.
No, that's why we brought you here, man. I just like hanging out and talking markets. This is good stuff.
Cool. So the simple message from this chart is fundamentally, think of Shane Scripps. We could go down a little bit from here. And then technically, we're getting messages from the market. Look at my little Willy indicator. When this yellow line goes above the overbought zone here, it means the market is stupidly overbought. And if you're buying this market, you are asking for trouble. And sure enough, boosh, boosh, right? And then back up and boosh, big old M's. And I mean, you see it, it's sitting here. So we're getting a lot of technical messages to cool your jets. I don't know whether you've ever heard me use that expression before.
Once or twice, I think. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. No, and it's the thing I need to do though. I mean, I say that, I see this, and then I get sucked into a coin or an idea. I'm on the revival path, after getting totally off my plan through the bull, which really helped me actually. I mean, I won't lie, it did well for me, but you got to reel it in at the right time. And so I've been working on that this year. I'm actually focused entirely now just on the process, which I think you would teach people to do all the time. I admittedly came off of it and it worked great when it worked, and then it stopped working. And now I've got to smarten up. So yeah, I'm sitting 60, 65% cash, and I'm just trying not to overtrade. And if I see a short, there could be a long in here before we get any of those lows. Like, I'm just trying to trade a lot less until January, February.
Right. So, and please understand, I'm talking to the investors in the group here. The day traders and stuff like that, they're operating off 5-minute charts, completely different conversation. And I might even argue swing traders, I could very easily see that through over the next maybe few months, we actually carve out like a big old head and shoulders top here. I could very easily see something like that. Yeah. So, but I guess what I'm trying
Santa Claus rally.
It could be. It might even be starting now. Like we said, the algo is flipping long here. But, I can understand traders would come in and buy. This obviously is a huge psychological level here, because not only is this high and that low, but this is actually a really big psychological benchmark, $25,000. So my hunch is that actually we've got to swim around this 25,000 a little bit, but I could very easily see. I mean, you see how many times it went up to it and then went up to it, so came back to it. Could we have a little bit of a counter trend rally here and then dump through here? What I would say is, what are some of the fundamental catalysts that we have to look forward to over the next few months? Is there some guy who built this whole Ponzi scheme and literally built the entire crypto industry out of billions of dollars that's having a very public trial coming up here in the not too distant future?
Sam Bankman-Fried.
Yeah.
Fuck.
And through all of that, is there going to be some ugly shit coming out about crypto and Bitcoin and the sort of ugly side of this industry that's revealed through this trial? Oh, I think so. So, it would be through that kind of environment. And if I'm not mistaken, I think the trial starts in like October.
Okay.
So, could we maybe back and forth here, maybe even a little buy the rumor kind of idea. And then once the actual trial starts, then we roll over. Could be, I mean, if anything, what I would say here is I like your thinking that, and if anything, what you need to do here, Colin, is you need to listen to the message of the market. This is super, super important. If you see that the market is dumping into the end of the year, then actually that's a great buying opportunity. But if we actually see that the market is rallying into the end of the year, that is your message. The market is telling you, cool your jets. Do you see how it's rallied into the end of the year, into the cycle? Mm-hmm. So this is a warning sign to the market. What does the market actually do into the end of the year? So if, what I would say is I like your thinking, but if we're up on an up node heading into the end of the year, that's a major warning sign to me. If we're, however, on a down note and we're like dying 1,000 deaths into the end of the year, oh, I love that. That's awesome. Yeah. So in a weird sort of way, over the next 3 or 4 months, we're going to get a lot of really important information from the market. Not necessarily are you going to take a trade or not, but the market is going to speak to us. So what I would actually suggest, and hopefully we could do this, is maybe let's circle around in like December or something and let's have another one of these tete-a-tetes, and let's see what the market is telling us to think for 2024.
Yeah, I love that year in review and a preview for 2024 kind of sesh.
Absolutely.
Love
And
it.
I would just simply say, you can literally see, don't fight this, right? You can literally see we do not get bullish again until you actually start to see W's. Do you see the massive W in the MACD histogram here?
Yeah.
And notice that broke out, and that told us, well, you better start getting bullish, right? In fact, the momentum started to actually turn last fall. So did you see the big W? I don't know whether
Yeah.
you can see that or not.
No, it's right there. Yeah.
Really,
I've
folks,
got a question. I've got a question, Brian.
Sure.
There's been quite a lot of conversation. Maybe the answer to this question falls in with we're nearing the bottom, but there's been some so-called experienced traders in the space, namely crypto Twitter, that have commented that they believe that through this idea of diminishing returns, that crypto will not see bull markets like we have seen in the past. My opinion on that is that human nature is human nature, and it will continue to be human nature until we are programmed otherwise, so therefore never. And that opinion is actually bullshit. And I was just wondering whether you agree with them on this whole idea of diminishing returns, or do you think we will see more of the same, if not even more mania, because there's more money coming in and more people getting involved?
I would say, short answer, humans are humans. And when Bitcoin is in its bull part of its 4-year cycle, that's when people like Do Kwon come to the market. That's when people like Danny come to the market, right? And in those bull market scenarios, there will always be the Dannies. There will always be the Do Kwons. They will always
The main characters.
And
the main
those
characters.
ideas, what you have to understand is a brand new idea. Think of it this way. A brand new idea. How many people are going to be thinking about shorting that brand new idea right out of the gate? Nobody. That's dangerous because it's a brand new idea. People are going to be like, are you kidding? This new project, this thing's going to change everything. It's a brand new technology, and what he's going to do with the blockchain and the way he's going to blah, 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 right? And then, sadly, the darn thing goes absolutely insane. And guys like Colin get to go and buy mansions with his profits. Just kidding. I mean, congratulations. You earned the register. That's what you were supposed to do.
It's a family home. It's a reasonable,
it's a family home.
normal neighborhood.
Anyway, the point is you did the game. You won the game. You played the game correctly. You won. You rang the register. Way to go, right? So, but
thanks to you in many ways.
Are you telling me that whole capitalist spirit, that whole capitalist thing is never going to happen again? Forget it. Now, this is important where we have to distinguish. So that was the short answer, is humans are humans. There will always be the Dannies. And there will, in bull markets, there will always be the 100Xs. So the question is, can you identify those new projects, right? Long answer. It's complicated because the question you have to ask yourself is, why was Bitcoin actually created to begin with?
Mm-hmm.
I personally believe that Bitcoin was created to offset the dilution in the currency that the 1%, the people who actually created Bitcoin, knew was coming down the pike. And this was their way to offset that currency dilution. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right. So the question you have to ask yourself is the currency dilution, Chair Powell and the Brr memes and all that kind of stuff, right? Is that tomorrow's story or is that yesterday's story? And unfortunately, remember, the public is always wrong. So the public right now thinks that Brr and endless money printing, this is just going to go on indefinitely. And that's just wrong. I actually believe that we are actually in a brand new growth cycle. So this brings us back to, what is Bitcoin's purpose in existence? So if it is the store of value story, then
No, it's not.
it's probably not going to go, another 100x higher here, because the money printers have done what they had to do. And, if anything, you see, they're trying to reduce the money supply now. They're trying to reduce the Fed's balance sheet. They're raising interest rates. They're trying to constrict the economy to try and get this whole inflation problem under control again, right? That's not inflationary. That's deflationary. So if you're buying Bitcoins because it's a store of value, money printers are endless, well, actually, I think you might be a bit heartbroken. But there are people like Caitlin Long. Do you know who she is?
Yep.
So there are people that believe in the Lightning Network, which in essence is this idea that crypto can actually become a competitor in the financial services industry, and is actually a more efficient way of actually running our financial system. And if that's the case, then Bitcoin, and especially Mr. Vitalik's supercomputer and all of the DeFi story, that's all about growth. And how big does crypto have to get to actually be able to do that global financial services industry? So if you're a believer in that camp, then crypto has a long, long, long way to grow. So I
like that story better.
What camp
So
you're
the
in.
thing is, I actually agree with the notion that the purpose of Bitcoin was to effectively be more efficient around primarily transfer of money from point A to point B. I think the white paper is very clear on that. I think it's definitely evolved. And I think the evolution around Bitcoin, in my opinion, is the security that it's created. It's definitely the most secure and most probably perfect network that we've created as a species in its current form. So there is that Bitcoin kind of maxi part of me that speaks when I say that, but the proof is that you can't shut it down. And I think that's where the real value of Bitcoin comes in, this autonomous self-serving, and self-serving in its own way, not to somebody or something, but to its own. And that is to be secure and to communicate from point A to B to Z, or wherever you want to communicate. And I think the future of DeFi in many ways could lie on stuff being built on Bitcoin, whether it's the Lightning Network, whether it is a layer 2 that defines itself in the same way that Ethereum does. That's a possibility. But you're right, Brian. I think it is about expansion, efficiency of markets, and delivery of services that the traditional finance market is so protective and so like self-serving about. And I think that's where crypto serves a very valuable purpose.
So like, my suggestion to people and my suggestion to students is identify the industries that are still operating that like 20th century or 19th century business model. And are they susceptible to crypto actually coming in and eating their lunch? And the interesting thing is that the shareholders of these companies will encourage this, because blockchain will drive profit margins. So, I hate to say it, but going and getting a job in a bank is a really bad idea. Because
I love to say that. Fuck them.
Well, but the point here is that the irony of it all is investing in companies that can facilitate that move to the blockchain for the banking industry would be a very smart idea.
Definitely.
And then you can make the parallels that anything that has a third-party settlement, so like insurance companies, stock trading, all sort of custodial services. I mean, this is kind of what Do Kwon wanted to do. And I think this is why Novogratz got so excited about Do, was that he basically saw that what Do was trying to do was, in essence, basically take over the stock market. Crypto and blockchain should be a much more efficient model for settling stock transactions and things like derivative contracts than any current Wall Street model. So the sad part about it, of course, is that Wall Street saw that and went, we better put this guy out of business and quick, or else he's going to take our business. Right. So unfortunately for Doe, and this is also a warning. When you see crypto guys going on social media and just going, fucking, I'm so fucking rich. Look how big my dick is. And fuck, that's a warning sign, right?
Don't do them like that.
Okay, these guys are getting pretty full of themselves, and maybe you ought to think about ringing the register a little bit. And of course, like me as an investor, I build into all of my plans. I have no choice. I have to take profits as we move up. The sell halves on a doubles, sell halves on triples, whatever. So my plan forces me to take profits. So on Doe, for example, I was ringing the register the whole damn way up. So I didn't actually lose any money on Doe, even though I still had, in fact, I hit $119 and my next sell order was at 121. Can you believe that?
Wow.
Holy bad luck.
I remember that. Yeah.
So anyway, I do got to get out of here. I think I told you Thursdays is Liam's day, my son. And at 1:00, I have to be on the road to him religiously. So I've got about 10 minutes to put my makeup on and put my dress on.
Yeah, it's all good. We went overtime today, but I loved it. Every minute of it. We'll flip back to the screens here. Dude, it's been a pleasure. We already have a slot for you for our late show in the year. I think it would be great to have you back in. It's like a quarterly kind of revisit to some of these ideas.
That's the music to my ears, sir. Love that. I love it. I love hanging with you guys. You're both TRIers. So the one thing that I absolutely hate in this space is trying to talk to people that are not educated about risk management and understanding how to act responsibly in the marketplace. So I know both of you are educated because you're my students. So I love these kind of conversations because I'm just preaching to the choir, right?
Yep. And hopefully then we'll have more actionable stuff. I mean, today's, I think overall is like cool your jets, chill out. And that's kind of what I've been talking about. I don't know what's going on. All I know is it's not at a level I want to buy yet. And it's nowhere near as frothy for me to be looking to sell. So I'm in chill mode.
That's a really great way to say it. It's too early to buy, but it's also too late to sell.
Yeah. And if we squeak up here on some short-term news, it might hunt for a short. If we take another leg down, I'll be buying some stuff, but I really want to wait. Because I don't want to be in January, December window where it's like lower and I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't wait. So I'm pretty convinced.
Just keep in mind, last cycle, I think was really a tell. And I think this has more to do with the halvening than the year end. Is don't be surprised if first quarter 2024 we actually have a kind of a nasty dip,
like a finality to the bear market.
So what I would love to hear from you guys, and I know Jedi, you are totally on top of this, is I want a shopping list from both of you. Give me a half a dozen names where you're like, I've talked to these developers. This guy is solid. The project coming down the pike is just going to blow you away. Those are the names. I need to start building my shopping list now. And all the viewers, that's exactly what you should be doing now, is going out and finding the fundamental ideas. They might not be a technical buy right now, kind of like what I showed you here. I mean, maybe we've been bid up here in the summer, and that's great. But now is when you need to build your shopping list. So Jedi, if you can give me a few names that you're like, I love this project. These guys are going to reinvent the wheel. That's what I want to hear. And I want to get in, because if I'm not mistaken, didn't you help Danny last go round? Basically, you were in on the ground floor of his ideas.
Yeah, we were very fortunate to be close to him through his rise to fame. Really with Messi got in the grease with him on Spell, and he kind of put Spell on everyone's radar. And then we were like, hey,
Spell was 100x for me. Popsicle Finance was a 40x. I mean, it was just ridiculous.
There you go. So that's what I need from you guys. You're my fundamentalists. We've got Sjord on the site. He's got a half a dozen names. He's like Mr. Crypto, and we're loading up.
Are you on chain now? I remember last, like, I brought you a name and you're like, I don't know, I'm not going to friggin' AVAX or whatever chain to buy that like weird coin. Like, if you're on chain, you like have your shit ready on multi-chain kind of access, because I'm guarantee you when Jedi brings you names, they're all going to be on chain.
That's fine. I mean, like, Sjord is Mr. Crypto.
Okay.
And he is, and he doesn't like buying on chain. It's a pain in the butt, but I have a funny feeling to get really good value. That's probably where you got to go these days.
Yeah,
once a pain in the butt. It's actually easy.
Okay.
Yeah, once you're used to it, it's pretty straightforward.
I tell you what, I would
ask
ask from you, both of you guys, if you want, maybe mid-November or something, we could have you on TRI. And you guys could say, okay, Brian, you chicken shit. This is the way you do it. Quick, put some big boy pants on, and this is what you do. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Right? And our audience would love you for that.
Yep. Yeah, I'm actually coming on tomorrow, so I'm going to come see you tomorrow.
Awesome.
Remember?
There you
go.
I'm
going to join you tomorrow. But I'd love that. If Jedi wants to roll with me, we can come and see you in the fall, because I want to see that list too. Jedi's got a good list, and I'm trying to build.
Do we have Brian on Discord, RT?
We do. I'll add you to today's like stream group, and you can ping them from.
Cool.
Yeah, like we
got one. I'd like to share one with you, Brian.
Pardon me?
I want to share one with you, but I'll share with you on Discord.
Okay, cool. I'm all ears, and really I want to listen to you guys. There you are. So added Jedi.
You're in.
All right, boom. Okay. All right, so I'm going to try
guys.
and stop talking now. Anybody listening here, if you can participate in the education program, now is the time to get your plan up and running. Now is the time to do all the hard work, get everything set up so that when we hit the ground after the halvening event, you guys can rock this thing. But you got to get your act together now.
Yeah. Treat yourself to a Christmas present of a trading plan, because that's what you get at the end of level 1, which is pretty dope. So,
sick.
Okay, guys, thank you for coming to the show today. Brian, always appreciate your time. Jedi as well. We'll be back on Tuesday. No, I'm away next week. Okay, I'm going to be in the States actually next week. So I don't know what's going on next week, but the pit will be on Thursday. So until next time, guys, whatever you do, always play from a position of strength. Take care.